I have spent many hours watching these Kinder Surprise egg openings. I think they're very well known. But if you've never seen it before, people get very excited about how peculiarly obsessive children especially can become about watching these things. And I don't think anybody has offered a particularly convincing psychological explanation about what exactly it is that's so compelling. But something is compelling about them. I don't quite know what. Maybe that could be our first question.
We would like to explain to Sophie's making the research that we are, at this slide, we are researching with parents. Also, we are researching with kids in the which way with the statistic that YouTube has in the page, and also asking to the teens about the strategy that also content analysis, of course, of the strategy they are developing. You have to develop also the indicators that we have in the slides for researching, because I think the big problem is to know how to research these types of communication. You talked about that before. We have to develop indicators to the new ways of making advertising. So we have a lot of indicators to measure that this type of communication is different of the traditional advertising tool.
Do you think that the responses really are invisible, or do you think that we just haven't developed the research techniques to explore them? I suppose that's the question. I mean, maybe Petra, you could answer that first. But I think it's also a question for your paper too.
Well, I think so. That I really think that a majority of the reactions are invisible, as every person that sees something, no matter if it's online or offline, makes either some reasoning or there's some emotion or some trace of emotions that stays there. So I think that there's a majority of reactions are invisible. And in terms of visibility of the reactions, I think it's very much connected to the character of the certain people who are visibly interacting. If it's really the majority of people visibly interacting, who are they? If are the people that really wants to be seen, want to really have the need to somehow comment or like or be visible, just themselves. So it's so I think it's only a part of the population that is really has the necessity to have visible reactions, especially when it relates to the brand content.
I was talking here about the passionate niches, because it's very much niche specific, isn't it? Because if it's vegan, yeah, they're passionate. Yeah, if it's like car rentals, people are less likely. If you're running the ads on Facebook, yeah, why would you comment on that? Well, let's do some boring stuff, accountancy course. Why would you comment on the accountancy course ad on Facebook?
Right.
Yet it works probably.
I think it's only a very minor amount of people that are passionately saying, yeah, that's great, or they're commenting on passionately. Because it's not a question of discussion as in other online communities. It's not a Wikipedia, it's not any other type of online community. It's rather people that are saying something because they want to say it. Well, maybe I'm not explaining it very, very well, but I think that the emotions that are visible on social media are a certain way how the people react in general, that are very extrovert, that are willing to share their emotions, but it's only a very minor part of the population.
If I may, if I'm not mistaken, your answer opens a very huge issue that's about metrics.
Yes.
We are used to traditional metrics to measure the traditional advertising and the impact in the people in the audience in television. With branded content, we open a new scenario where metrics are not politically, there's no consensus about metrics. And it's not clear, at least from my of view today, currently, what should be this metrics to measure the impact of this kind of contents in people? It's not only about clicking in a banner. It's not about. It's just how this affect people's behavior.
Whatever it is that's being transacted between the screen and the person engaging with it, I don't think we have successfully articulated all of those things, either because it's children or because people aren't clicking, but it doesn't mean they're doing nothing, and all of those sorts of things. So I think, and presumably that also affects the professionals producing that activity, because they must have no orientation to the...
If we switch from the word reactions to the word affects, the scope of the questions really becomes much, much larger, because you can look at reactions and affects in terms of promotional effectiveness, and so metrics, the issue of metrics is a huge one, but you can also look at it from different perspectives, such as the cultural effects of the exposure of people, of children, to this kind of content, as well as, for instance, the kind of how this kind of content engage with people in terms of parasocial relationships, for instance, with a YouTuber or with a celebrity that creates the content. So there is, of course, the huge thing, which is the marketing effectiveness, which is the most urgent one, of course, for companies. But in terms of research, you can look at it from other perspectives, and that opens up the issue even more, I think.
My question or comment is for probably everyone, but maybe Petra in particular. You did mention ethical dilemma. Can you say a bit more about your thoughts or your plans, how to deal with your challenges in your research design in the future?
The goal is to be as much open as is possible with the respondent. So it means that the respondent should be told that to what extent, what exactly he will be, what will be monitored. But on the other hand, for example, for the online experiment, I don't think that it would be good to tell him the exact name of the brand, but only to stay within the general terms in terms of commercial monitoring of commercial messages, rather than giving the actual name of a brand to be monitored, because then it will be kind of biased by any social media advertising that he would see or supported post. So, but still, I think this is very much connected with the issue of finding the respondents. So far, I'm really very realistic that it will be kind of difficult to find those people that would be okay with having their devices monitored for such a long period of time. On the other hand, I still keep my fingers crossed and I stay optimistic that I will find those people within the target group. Yeah, but I think there are a lot of ethical challenges. And, but for example, for the softwares employed, you can choose what exactly you're going to monitor. So it means that all the functionalities, such as monitoring emails or messengers, I wouldn't be interested in, because it's really huge access into someone's private life. But still, there are certain risks.
You mentioned that your research will focus on the branded content marketing industry. You said you could talk a little bit more about your sample. So I would be interested, are you, for example, bringing in journalists or not? Because in our research and in the previous seminars here, we saw that people with a journalistic and media background have often a very different conceptualization of what branded content is towards what people from the marketing and brand area come from.
My idea was not to look at, let's say, native content. So in terms of the news, the journalism industry, I will not look into that. My idea is to look more into entertainment formats. So more in the kind of campaign we have seen, for instance, presented at Cannes. So more like video formats and content that try to engage on emotional entertainment level, rather than, for instance, listicles in BuzzFeed, or the kind of contents we have learned that, for instance, Guardian Labs, or all the different kinds of blurred, activities by media and journalism, editorial groups that also provide this kind of commercial services. So, because that would be too huge. So my idea would be to kind of narrow a little bit more. Also because, maybe I didn't explain it very well, but I am particularly interested in this kind of intersection between the commercial work and the personal work, the artistic work of these people that screenwrite or produce or work as in creative production for the video formats. So people who do it for brands, whereas also very often doing for themselves or for other kind of, we can say, passion works, passion projects. But that is, that would be also very interesting to look at the double work by news editorials groups, because that is very important and also potentially sensitive, of course, since we are dealing with news.
Hello, my name is Sampa. I'm from Paris. I have a question for Petra. Do you make any difference between brand content and branded content? Because in your research you use the word brand content rather than branded content. So do you make any difference between the two concepts, or not really?
So far, I did not really give it a huge thought, but I feel that there should be a difference. That the brand content for me is a bit wider term. It means that it can come from whatever producer. It means that it doesn't need to be the brand who is producing the content, but it can be the content occurring anywhere from anyone. So even a person, a consumer, can be a producer of a brand content.
This question is significant, as when you say brand content or branded content, whatever, do you mean the brand was involved in financing? Was there any material return? Because that's probably the difference between someone just referring to a brand in a natural way than someone referring to a brand because he was paid. So is that the distinctive feature?
And I think this is a useful conversation, as with the previous point about branded entertainment, because it's about the sort of clarification and, in quite blurry areas of some of the sort of meaningful distinctions. I think it's very helpful. I think you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah. I think one of the main characteristics of branded content is that the distinction between editorial content and promotional content is blurred. And I think this is, Patricia, you've said that with a particular focus on children and adolescents, this might be a particular problem. And my impression is that in researching this problem with children, research is predominantly concerned with the questions: do children recognize the difference between the one and the other, according to persuasion knowledge theory? Yeah? But I think a question which is at least as important today, when we talk about cultural effects of this development, is: do they care? And this, I would like to ask you, what is your impression in your research? Well, do they know the difference? But if they know it, do they care about the difference? Because my impression is that we're talking about a generation coming up that does not really care about the difference we do care about. Yeah, sure. I mean,
because are we talking information or are we talking persuasive information where people object to being led, or people are happy to be led?
Yeah, it's a biased academic field because we say there are certain elements in the program that are highly relevant for society, and they have to be pure. So I would like to ask, are we talking about a new generation of recipients, of users, of consumers who do not share this position?
In order to care, and I totally share your view, I know that from the students, they don't really care. They don't care.
I know that from my students too, by the way.
Yeah, they just don't care. I'm like, but you have to first ask, are they aware? Do they really understand the change that is going on around them?
We have problems with the concept or definition, for example, with digital natives in some cases, because we think that digital natives, they are expert in everything, and they only know sometimes they know how to use the laptop in some cases, but they are not critical with all the information and with comparing information, So we have big problems with the concepts. In this case, of course, we are not researching about if they know the advertising in the shape of branded content or not. We are in the other part. We are looking or researching about how are the strategies that influencers are using to get followers. How is the way of entertainment they are using? Also, which is the parental mediation in this? So we are researching about if mom is there in the channel. So how is the way that parents are also building the channels? It's a pity because if you watch the examples, you can find it. So we are worried about the use of the kids in these YouTube channels also, and sometimes I'm sure they are not. They don't know that they are being used to promotion. I think so.
The first session highlighted the value of cultural and social researchers. I think this session has done that again, but also highlighted the value of multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary research. As Jose said, in a sense, one advocate argument for the network would be to ask questions about measurements and metrics that may not be the questions that are always asked by interested parties, and it shows how far behind we are of some of the capacity to generate and answer those questions from industry. So I think that's a really important thing. The third thing that just I want to highlight that came across for me is we really shifted for a lot of our debate towards consumers. And it just seems such rich, fertile ground to explore. I mean, going back to Arturo's question of sort of how empowerment gets framed in all the discourses we've looked at, market discourses, industry discourses, how performativity and self-branding operate. But it's basically a challenge to the network to map out not just the production side of the media marketing nexus, but very much into these questions of consumption. I think it's really indicated direction of travel for us. Thank you very much.